What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to test out my Rode Go wireless system while I had the AC on because it's getting extremely hot out here. So when I'm vlogging, I'm kind of like, how would the Go wireless system drown out the noise while I got it connected right here and I have it, the receiver mounted to the Canon R6. We know the Final Cut added voice isolation, which is a great feature. Before that, I used to use Waves Audio, Crumple Pop. These were all different plugins you would add to Final Cut to be able to take out some of the background noise, as well as lavalier rustling. But I normally vlog with the shotgun mic Sennheiser MKE400 just because it's a lot easier to just run and gun with. I don't ever have to worry about what I just did 5 seconds ago, which is I plugged in the mic to the headphone jack instead of the mic jack. So in this real world test, I'm gonna use this as a time to just do a quick vlog talking about the things I learned from shooting my first short film. I want to give a catchy title like 5 things, but we're just gonna go for the next 5 minutes and talk about some things. So my first short film, and when I mean a first short film, is my first official short film, producing and putting together, mapping out, plotting. I also starred in it, which is Room Enough, which is now streaming on Tubi and other different outlets as well. We're gonna get into that. That was my first short film. I did other ones, getting together with filmmakers, like let's put something together, impromptu, but we really planned this out. We shot on the Canon C100 Mark II because I own that camera, and I also had the 18-35 f1.8 lens by Sigma Art. Great optical quality, and on the C100, that's more like a 24mm to like 56mm equivalent. We shot 85% of the film with that lens, and then the DP also had a 50mm Sigma lens, 1.4 that he had. So the other 15 to 25% was shot on the 50mm f1.4. Overall, I think the film turned out very, very well based on what we used, the resources we used. Some things I would have did differently. In terms of the C100, a lot of people forget it is a 4K sensor that outputs 1080p. So great 1080p is great 1080p, and C100 is going to give you that. The reason why people like David Fincher shoots 8K because it gives you flexibility in post to reframe a shot. You could turn a medium shot into a close-up, a wide shot into a medium shot. So shooting 8K and your output being like 2.5K gives you a lot of flexibility in post-production and just massage certain things when something goes wrong. And I will really appreciate, you really appreciate that based on certain situations. So the C100 1080p, we didn't have a lot of room, so there was a couple of scenes where I wish we were wanting for a close-up because this take was better than that take. Because sometimes it's the thing with actors, some actors are stronger in one take than another take. I'm like, damn, I wish I could have zoomed in on that one. And when you're shooting at 1080p, you can't just scale up in post-production because the image quality starts diminishing. You don't have that much room. So that's one thing I would have did differently. We shot the audio straight in the camera. C100 has built-in XLR inputs. That's one of the things I love about, Canon cinema cameras. A lot of them have them now, but at that point in time, what really stood out with the Canon C100 is had built-in XLRs, built-in ND filters, and coming from like 5D Mark III, it was greatly appreciated. I think the audio was 16-bit, might be 24-bit. But yeah, the audio still came out all right. But I really wish I used an external recorder, because when you're running the sound right into a camera with an XLR input, then you have to worry about if you bump the camera, then you can't take it out the sound. It's in the whole unit. So using an external, audio recorder would have probably been preferred. And I had a Tascam DR60D at the time, which was like 2 XLR inputs. Now I have a Zoom F6, which is going to be the go-to choice because it's 32-bit audio. 32-bit audio is basically raw audio, so it doesn't matter if I got low sound or too high sound or it clipped, I'm always going to be able to pull it back. So if you're going to invest in audio recording, you have the funds, always get 32-bit audio. It's raw audio. Outside of that, I would recommend external audio for your film. But in that situation, yeah, I would have used it because I had an external recorder, but I get it if you don't, but make sure your cinema camera or your camera has that. Otherwise, like, audio is 50% of the project. Just kind of keep that in mind. So, and I would have we used the Sennheiser MKE600. That was the shotgun mic I had at the time. I would have probably splurged to get the MKH416 because that is a difference in terms of picking up the sound pattern you could tell is way more isolated. So I would have definitely went with the MKH416 and either rented. A lot of times I was always looking to buy gear because it made sense, and I still buy gear. But in certain situations, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have bought this and been able to rent out this, because you can't go back and do your projects. That's one of the things to keep in mind. Like I don't live in regrets, but I live in perspective. So the perspective I have now, you can't go back and do a project, so you want to get it as best as you possibly can in respect to your finances, your time, and your teamwork, because at least then you have something to build on. But when you have obvious mistakes, then it doesn't really challenge you to build upon that. Like, you're like, oh yeah, I know if I would have did a rehearsal, it would have been better. Of course you know that, but when you say, oh, I did 2 rehearsals, but I realized maybe we could have introduced something into rehearsal, that helps you build to another level. And that's something that, is going to carry over to you as a filmmaker. So yes, would have had external audio. We would have shot, when I was talking about the reframing aspect of the things, I would have either shot with a higher resolution camera, 4K, or I would have been more intentional about the shot list. Now, this is what it is, because on a real film set, there's like 50 people. There's supervisors, script supervisors, there's AC, second ACs, AD, second ADs, like all that for a reason. The best of the world actually have the best of the best help, and they have more help than on traditionally an indie set. They got more money, more help, more people, more creators, more professionals, and they don't skimp on that. So just kind of keep that in perspective in mind, and always be thinking about how can I help this project, because if you're going to dedicate your time, then you should get your best out of it. So we covered what to use external recorder, what to use the 4K camera, or we would have been more intentional about having a shot list to get the coverage, because that flexibility could really help out in post-production. Rehearsal is so important. I kind of gave a little shout out to it. Sometimes you're like, well, we ain't got the time, but I'm telling you, like, at the end of the day, we are here for the story. And if the story's not on point, I don't care if you got the best audio, best camera, no one's gonna watch it. You put it all together, you got a great project, and you don't necessarily need the best camera in the world sometimes. Like, as I said, I shot on the C100. Yes, I would have preferred a 4K camera, that camera that output 4K, but I can get away if the story is good, the acting is good, and the audio is good. It's still digestible. That's why we could watch. I just watched the new Top Gun. Phenomenal movie. Made me go watch the original Top Gun. Now I can tell the VFX is not on par, but I'm still able to enjoy the movie because of what Tom Cruise does, what Goose does, what all the other actors bring to the table. It's still enjoyable, and that's what you want with filmmaking. You'll get there with the gear, but if you get there with the story, we will remember the story. You're not watching Rocky 1 like, oh, this is trash. It's like you're addicted to the story. So you really just don't want no noise in your story. You don't want bad audio, that's noise. Anything that distracts from the story is noise. So the camera, the sensor, the audio is there to accentuate the story. So just focus on that. So we said get the rehearsals in. If you're doing stunt, definitely get the rehearsals in. The more rehearsals, the more rep it carries over into the next project, and it builds a stronger relationship with your cast and the crew to go into other projects. That's why the best filmmakers in the world are always working with each other. So we covered that part. What else could I think about? Location, expensive. I was able to save on some locations, but we had to buy a bar. Being intentional and being strategical. We shot a bar, we shot an apartment scene. There's a place in Burbank, Nvision 8 Studio, that has a jail, a bar, a living room, a hospital, and an office. If I could do it all over again, I would have probably just shot a 12-hour day in that one location, set all that up, so we can knock out 2 to 3 different things at one time, and the cast and crew will be there and comfortable. Because a lot of times when you're renting out an Airbnb or Peer Space or one of these other places, it's not always set up for multiple casts to be there. But if you rent out a whole studio, then you're in a position to just kind of knock out multiple birds with one stone. Everybody's in a confined space, parking, and the setup. So ultimately, with all these different scenarios I've gave, the most important thing is being intentional, planning out, being strategic, and ultimately that's going to lead to your success. If you got questions, comment down below. Let me know what you think. If you got some tips, maybe I do a follow-up video. But as always, stay creative, be courageous, and get on your grind.